Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blown Speakers, episode 82. I'm Dave Hoenigman, coming in from Yokohama, Japan, and joining us from Australia, New South Wales, is Emily Burden.
Hello.
Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ah, I'm delighted you're here, right? And so let's see. Today we're going to talk about the band. Would you call them a band? I guess the performance troupe, I want to say.
Yeah.
Heilung. How is this pronounced? Any idea?
Well, I pronounced it Heilung, but
Hey,
that could be wrong because I read somewhere that Heilung is healing in German, but I don't speak German. So, but to me, it looks like Heilung. Could be
hmm,
Heilung.
hmm, hmm. But where did you hear a lot of people screaming the name at the show?
Oh, well, yeah, well, a lot of them were wolf howling, like, oh, like at the stage and Heilung. So maybe
Nice.
it was Heilung.
Because yeah, I mean, I listened. So the album we're going to talk about today is Lifa, which I'm guessing means live in German, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so it's a 2017 live album, and yeah, you can hear a lot of howling and screaming on the album. So the crowd really gets into these performances, right?
Definitely. Yeah. It's not just that, it's just the choices of the instruments they use. Like they use human bones and they use like animal skins and pelts and yeah, it's amazing. I can't even describe it because it's not like general instruments that you hear these days. They use like really old style drums and cymbals and rattling things, sticks. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant.
Let's see. Well, just before we get into that, I wanted to comment on your I see your paintings that you put up online. Yeah, and I think they're amazing. Like, wow,
Yeah.
what's the story with this one?
Oh gosh. Um, that's the thing. See, I sort of start painting and I don't know where it's going. But at the time I was really inspired with Korean folk art. And if you have a look at those, they've got all those sort of like those cloud forms and it's hard to say, like, yeah, like look at the clouds with the bubbles and things like that. So I started with those clouds thinking, okay, I'm going to do something Korean, folklore based. But then I must have been listening to some music and I was like, you know what would be cool here? A pirate
Yeah.
emblem. So I kind of moved it to kings, pirates, mermaids, prayers, religion, the eye, like the Illuminati eye. Um, yeah, I just went out of control with this one.
Wow. How
Yeah.
how big is this?
That one is probably about 150 centimeters by about 100 centimeters. So it's quite a big one.
Hmm.
I'd say, yeah, probably about 60 inches
Hmm.
in length. Yeah, but no, it was good. And the thing is, with abstract painting, you kind of have an idea of what you want, but then it never turns out how you actually expect because you're just doing it intuitively.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, beautiful colors and yeah.
some people would say it's an eyesore. Like I don't know how to be subtle. I describe my art as can be very obnoxious because I love color. Like
Hmm.
color to me is my happy place. If I
Hmm.
can just get mixed up with all the colors and all the paints and just like make a huge mess in my art studio, that's probably the time I'm the most happiest in life.
Now, did you go to art school or are you just self-taught?
Well, no, briefly. It's funny. Yeah, I did a fine arts certificate through TAFE, which in Australia is kind of like community college, when I was probably about 16. So I dropped out of school when I was in year 10, because I'm a bit of an anarchist. I don't really like rules. I don't want to wear uniforms. I didn't really like the kids. They were being mean to me because I was a bit chubby. So I left then and I went to art school for a year and I just studied it then. But then I went back to high school and finished up there and then went to uni for an obnoxious incredibly, long time period where I got 4 university degrees, but I didn't use them. So that was a bit of a waste. But yeah, I took up art more so during COVID. Like I've always had a sketchbook, but I took up art during COVID because, where else can you go? You can't go out anywhere on the weekends, and at night, in front of the TV, I just grab a canvas and some paints and watch a movie and paint at the same time. And I enjoyed it. So I kept doing it.
Yeah, looks amazing.
Ah, thank you.
This one's nice too. Huh?
Yeah, my friends say she looks like Uma Thurman. I don't see it, but I enjoyed it. I kind of realized that it's hard because in Australia we can't copy Aboriginal people's painting styles on purpose. So I have to be very careful not to, try to take any of the traditional like the dot paintings and things like that. So it's hard because I love that style. It's like my favorite thing to do, like when you can just, put dots and swirls everywhere. So I try not to make it look like Aboriginal art, but I want to have a signature style for myself. And a lot of those elements is what I like to do naturally when I'm not thinking about it. So I've got to be that fine line of not copying or mimicking, traditional tribal styles. But yeah. Prince Harry, well, I don't know if he's a prince anymore. He got into a lot of trouble. He handed in Aboriginal inspired artwork for his Eton thing, for his Eton homework when he was back doing school. And he got into so much trouble because he was copying a style that, he shouldn't have.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear my cat?
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. My cat's going off.
It's not a problem. It reminds me of Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. Did you ever see that album cover from like the early 70s? It's got that vibe to it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I do like a 70s vibe.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense to me since you're such a visual person that you would be into this band. Or this unit, this troop. All right, I guess I'll just briefly talk people in. Heilung, I'm going to call him Heilung, I guess, if that's okay. Okay, is an experimental folk band, music made up of members from Denmark, Norway, and Germany. Okay, yeah, folk, neo-folk, ethnic music, industrial, it says here. I suppose I'm not sure I could see that, but the 3 main members, right, are this guy Kai, right? Kai Uwe Faust, right? And then we have Christopher Jewell and Maria Franz, right? So those are the 3 main people. But they perform with a big group of, so here the touring musicians looks to be 8 people here, and the warriors or the dancers or performers looks to be 14 more people. So it's a massive group, right? And like this kind of scene. So does this look similar to what you saw?
Exactly what I saw. Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. So I think the lead singer, Kai is his name. Yep. So funny backstory. He was I think he was a tattooist, or was that Christopher? One of them was like a tattooist, and they recorded their first album in 2017, and he was using the recording studio, and he was giving away free tattoos so that he could get recording studio time. So that's how the album actually started, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, when you see him on stage, it is an absolute, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's peeking through that curtain back in time to, if you could imagine, like the Viking show. It's almost all this imagery of Norse mythology. They are warriors. They're covered in black ash to symbolize their ancestors, and they're going into battle. So a lot of their dance moves and their performances and music is sort of based on that, that frenzy of going into war. or dying and living by the sword. So a lot of the background noise, especially like they do the stomping of the feet and they, do the banging of the spear on the ground, and that becomes part of the percussionist background. The way they move, like they simulate like a warrior stance, and they move in circles. So it's so rhythmic. It's beautiful. Like everything that you see, if you look on YouTube videos, like for their album, is pretty much what we saw in concert.
Okay. And are all the members on stage the entire time? Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like there's no intermission. They just completely, it's like 2 hour show. Just they start with how they started. It was beautiful. What they did was they got some Aboriginal peoples to come out, to give a blessing from the Gadigal nations. I'm currently on Awabakal land, but yeah, so they got elders to come out and to give blessings. And they did their own song with a didgeridoo to bless everyone there. And I think one of their most important messages was there's no inclusion without exclusion. So meaning like it's not us versus them. We are all one. We are all together. And when Heilung come out on stage after that blessing from the Aboriginal people here, they stand in a circle and they hold hands and they sage the stage, to get rid of all the bad energy. And the smell of sage just goes through the auditorium. And they're all holding hands and they all say, we are brothers, we are one, we represent the spirits that have come before. We all came from the same, fountain, the same well. So it was so beautiful. So I feel like there is a lot of spiritual elements in their performance, but they take it from everywhere so that it includes everyone. And that's their message. Like you can be spiritual, you can be religious, but together we are all brothers and sisters. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much their message.
So even though it looks kind of scary, right? And it could sound scary, I think, like, but
it does look a bit satanic, doesn't it? It's the opposite of that though.
Huh. Like like just a folk horror, like the Midsommar movie, like that kind of.
Yeah. Do you think
like,
he looks like the Lafia?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny, like when we went there, so many people were in cosplay. Like they were all dressed up like Vikings, and Australians, we love looking like Vikings. We're already hairy and, and big and belly. But yeah, it was funny. A lot of people had antlers woven into their hair. But to get through security and to get into the mosh pit, you had to, unwind your antlers. You weren't allowed into, the audience with a head full of antlers where you could spear someone in the eye.
Yeah.
So that was a bit sad. But yeah, everyone was all dressed up and they had the Viking hair and, the makeup, and some of them wore chainmail and like fake bear cloth that they probably got from like Spotlight or Michael's or, whatever craft store you have. But it was awesome. Everyone was just so polite and so happy. Like it was such a nice, because usually you think like all these scary Vikings, they look scary, they look like they'll cause trouble, they'll drink, they'll get into fights, they'll do all that. Everyone was on their best behavior. Like the audience was so polite. And I'm like in my 40s now, so I can't keep up with young punks anymore. So I was actually really surprised that everyone was just so happy to be there.
Yeah. Was the crowd multi-generational?
Yeah, I was surprised. Like a lot of young people, I'd say it was an 18 over gig because they were serving alcohol there. So no young kids. But yeah, I think the oldest I saw was probably about 70. Like cool 70 though. Like, they had the long hair and, they went all out as Vikings as well. But and it was funny because Luna Park, where they performed, is in Kirribilli, like a very rich part of Sydney. And before the concert, we all went to the Kirribilli pub, which is, very high class. And there was Vikings everywhere, all over the floor, having their schooners before they went to the concert. And and then we went into the servo or like the conveni, and the poor cashiers are serving all these Vikings like with antlers in this rich, snooty, posh neighborhood. I don't think they knew what hit them. It was just so funny to see.
Did you dress like a Viking?
I wanted to, and this is a funny story because I live in Newcastle, which is a 2.5 hour drive to Sydney. So I had to leave work at 4 o'clock because I went with my friend. So I went and picked her up, and then we drove down the highway to like for 2.5 hours. But I had a Teams meeting with my team at work at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was thinking, okay, I won't have time to put on Viking makeup. Do I put it on for the meeting for work? But I thought, oh, better not. So I did have big black eyelashes. So, but that was, I did want to draw on like the Norse runes down the neck and like maybe like a black ski mask. But I chickened out. I couldn't do it in front of my workmates.
Mhm. Next time.
Next time, well, yes, now I know how high they raise the bar when you go cosplay at these performances. Like you have to get dressed up.
Mm.
You look silly if you aren't a Viking.
Wow. Um, was this their first time in Australia? Do you know?
I think so. Like I've never heard of them coming here before, and like they only started in 2017.
Yeah.
So when you think like, yeah, with COVID, they wouldn't have been able to travel like anywhere, I think, for a couple of years.
Mm.
But no, I think it was their first. And last night they were performing in Melbourne. So I think they were only doing 2 shows unless they're going over to Perth, which might be, another show. But yeah, I think this was their first Sydney show.
I'm I'm just curious because they're a relatively new band, right? I mean, they just formed in 2014, started releasing stuff in, well, 2015. But for such a big project, it feels like it's still new. So it's interesting that already the fans are filling up or showing up fully dressed as Vikings, like just right off the bat. That's great.
I was surprised. Yeah, because I thought I was being hipster cool. I discovered the new hotness and no one else knew about them. I thought I was going to go to this concert and there'd be like 200 people who were equally as cool as me, who had never heard of the band before, but just would rock up. And it was crowded. There was probably 3,000 or 4,000 people there.
Okay.
It was massive. Yeah. So I was surprised. They must have a huge following because, they've taken it very seriously. Like they understood the assignment when they dressed up. I think they would be a popular band with gamers. I want to say gamers because I did see a few people, they were very into, like one is a famous person here. Her name is Steph, and she used to host a ABC show called Good Game. Yeah, and she was there in the audience as well. And like she's got a big following, and she said like a lot of her followers were there, who were gamers. I don't know, maybe like that kind of music feeds into things like God of War, PS5 games and yeah, like Odyssey. So I think it has sort of like an appeal to a certain demographic.
How about metalheads? Did you see a lot of metalhead? Because I think there's overlap with metal fans with this, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people were wearing black t-shirts and had the long beards. But one of the vocalist, I think it's Kai, he does Tibetan throat singing when in the music. So it does sound very metal, and they use iron tools to make like a clang like sound. And yeah, I can definitely see that. There's a lot of metal influences in the music.
Mm. And you mentioned a mosh pit. Was there actually a mosh pit?
Well, they did do crowd surfing. Not Maria, the lead singer. The female lead singer in the band. But yeah, some of the performers in the background, the ones with the shields and the spears, and yeah, they were all crowd surfing, and people were just up the front, dancing and having the time of their lives. So I didn't see any shenanigans. Like it wasn't a rough mosh pit, but it was definitely like jump up and down in front of the stage. So it was good. And I think like it was almost like a rave feel, like their lighting is part of the performance as well. So they had like strobe lighting, they had dry ice, they had, lightings that kind of went up and down or changed color suddenly. So it was a real sort of dance mosh pit feel in the front of the stage area. But me and my friend, we're old, we sat up in the seats. We couldn't mosh anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that just from your pictures, right? The lighting was very different in different scenes.
But when they hit the drum, the lights would change direction. So it would be like spot, 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 spot. And it would highlight different parts of the stage with the drums. So, oh, it's if you listen to it on Spotify or YouTube, it just doesn't feel the same. Like you can't feel the reverberation through the floorboards, and the lights, strobing lights, and it just feels like a brave new world there. Like when you actually go to the concert, the music is all consuming. Like sensorily, is that the word that you'll use? Like all your senses are on fire. You got the lights, you got the dry ice, you got the smell of the sage, you got the drums, the reverberating, and people like banging their feet on the floor. So you just feel it. Beautiful. I love that. I will go 1,000 times to see this band.
Okay. Wow. I want to see it. Definitely. Let's play a bit of the music for our viewers. Just a moment. Okay, so we're going to listen to a bit of this track, Kriegs Galder. Yeah, I imagine that would be intense live. Huh?
Yeah, can you hear like the iron? Like it's almost like a blacksmithing. Yeah, they're making the swords that you will die by. Which, it just, again, the performances, when they're on stage, they're actually performing at the same time as the music, and their performance actually like tells you a story. So, yeah, the point of that one was, they're blacksmithing and everyone lives and dies by the sword, but there might be another way, but you can't see it. So it's almost like talking to someone who refuses to take the path of peace. And she's trying to compel that person, there's another way. So you can hear in the background, like the forging of the swords as part of the beat, the percussion. And then the warriors are, with the shields and the spears, they're doing their warrior poses on stage. They look scary. And she's just serenely singing there under a spotlight, with her hands sort of like that, like almost like a Mother Mary, it's beautiful.
When I think you talked about it before we started recording, but how did you initially hear about these guys and how did you become a fan?
Yeah, I love Vikings. I love the show Vikings. I mean, anyone who says that they're Heilung fans, they probably love Vikings first, That's how you sort of fall into that, oh, that is so cool, that era, that time. And then, I saw some music on YouTube, and I saw something in my email box coming to Luna Park, Heilung. And I'm like, I've never heard of Heilung. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Went on YouTube, saw their videos, fell down that wormhole of like looking at all their videos. And they're so wonderful that they posted their whole concert, because the Lifa album was actually a live performance. It's all on YouTube if you want to check it out. So when I saw that, I was like, this is crazy. This is literally stepping back in time 600 years. I'm like peeping through the Carpathian forest, looking at this beautiful ritual that like no one else should see. It just feels really intimate, but also tells such a beautiful story. So I guess that's how I fell in love with them, checking out YouTube, and then you see the concert and I'm like, okay, I have to go.
So you're kind of a recent fan then, right?
Only recent. I only heard of them for probably about a year. So I'd say not that much, haven't listened to too much. I think they've only got about 3 albums or 3 or 4. So I like their most recent one because there's a song on that one I just play on loop. Like it is so beautiful. But yeah, it's probably, I think it's one of the bands I will definitely keep an eye out for, because I feel like they've got so much in the tank. Like how some bands just give up after 3 or 4 albums. I have a feeling that these people will be around for 20 years making music. Like they've got a good thing going. And I don't know too many other bands that do what they do.
No. It's definitely unique.
Yeah, I took my friend. She's never heard of them. I was just like, you're going with me tonight. And she was just like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And she goes to every concert under the sun, but she had never seen anything like this. So they are truly unique, I think. I can't imagine. It's almost like opera mixed with, ballet. because you've got dance, you've got performance, you've got music, you've got, live instruments. Everything about it is integrated. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, here's the discography, right? So they have
Yeah,
three studio albums and the one live album.
yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I think they've got a few more years, a few more albums coming out. Hope so anyway.
Well, I've seen them described as a phenomenon, right? So I mean, I guess their videos must have blown up on YouTube or something. So I thought maybe like their music was used in the soundtrack. So like I thought there might have been a reason specifically why it blew up. But I guess it's just that they made amazing videos that they put up, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I think, like, I read an article, and I might be getting this wrong, but they were apparently in some sort of Lifa community. Like, they loved reenactments of, medieval and Norse mythology. And I think Maria, the singer, she, was in this community as well, and they were singing around fires, singing these old Norse songs. She said that she always felt, sort of like an ugly duckling, but when she sang, they all really responded well to her, and she fell in with them that way. She got a lot of confidence through singing. So I think she's like an undiscovered talent. She's Florence and the Machine level, impressive. Like her vocal range, like, it's beautiful. It's almost like a fine bell. It just tinkles on the air, and he's, doing these guttural Tibetan throat sounds, and she's just like, ah. So it's such a good combo, I think. Like, it's not straight metal because you've got her doing these beautiful, ethereal vocals.
Mm. Yeah, we'll have to find an example of his guttural singing in a bit.
Yeah.
But do you understand how they write their songs? Because it's okay. Heilung describes their music as amplified history from early medieval Northern Europe. So somehow they use old text or something. Do you know the story behind that, or?
Yeah, well, they apparently said they do use like they've done some translations of like old Norse poems. I do know, like in that song that we just listened to before, like he does rap a bit, or right? I don't know if it's Tibetan throat singing, but he does a monologue that's in English. So I know that they sort of do move around, and I think a lot of it is just a soundscape. So I don't know if they're necessarily saying anything or if they're reciting poems or poetry. But yeah, Old Norse, Germanic, English. Who knows what else they can put in there? But it all sounds amazing.
Let's see the track listing, right? So the one we just listened to was track 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grisgalder. Yeah, I like the Carpathian forest, right? When he says at the beginning, where the trees are endless, right? He says that a few times.
That's a soundscape, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
When they played that one at the concert, everything was like ice, so it just felt like spray fog, and
Oh, wait, Emily, your mic kind of
like rain.
cut out there. Wait just a sec. Okay, just before our little tech glitch, you were talking about the track Carpathian Forest live.
Yeah, it was really wonderful how they captured this feeling, this essence of being on stage. They had really grey, light, white lighting, and dry ice was just sort of like pouring out from the stage onto the crowd. And this one man, and they backlit him, was walking out. So you just saw like a man sort of traveling through the mist, and the background was all like rainforesty, forest sounds. It really captured a moment, like a feeling. So yeah, I just think it's wonderful how they kind of get their music and their stage to kind of match and get a feeling across. So the Carpathian forest or mountains, you can imagine what it would be like if you're alone in this wilderness.
Because it's such a big production, what were concert ticket prices like? Is it pretty expensive or?
I would, well, yeah, no, mine was $90, I think. Like it was only $90 a ticket. Harry Styles this weekend, he went for like $189. So
Okay, wow.
I think it was reasonable.
Okay. Half of Harry
$90
Styles.
is pretty good in Australia at the moment.
Okay. Hmm.
It's like it's like a carton of eggs and a bottle of milk prices at the moment.
So you felt you got your money's worth.
Yeah, oh, more so. Yeah, definitely. And at that time of night, parking was free, so I'm not even going to worry about that. It was awesome.
Okay, well, shall we get into some of your personal photos from the show?
Yeah.
Okay, just a moment. Okay, so yeah, so what's going on here? This is one of your personal pictures.
Yeah, well, I took this photo originally because I've got a friend who's in the kink community. She does a lot of like rope play, so I sent it to her going, look, you're on stage. But no, the actual story was it was amazing imagery because that's a sword that they've tucked behind her back and they bound her with rope to the sword and then made her bow to this gentleman on stage. So she was all trapped and small. And then the lead female singer came out and removed the sword, just pulled it out in one big full fell swoop, almost like Excalibur. Pulled it out, and then the ropes just suddenly just fell from her limbs, and she just did this wild, frenzied dance across the stage like a wild gazelle. And just the imagery of how it was done was like, she could be captive, but it takes another woman to lift another woman up to freedom. And it was beautiful. Like I saw the modern feminism in that performance. And, well, that's how I read it. But it was just beautiful to see that, the beauty is in the freedom, is in the escape. There's not too much beauty in being bound and made small.
So you felt a lot of, I mean, even though it's obviously historic, old school imagery, but you felt a lot of it was relevant to today.
Think so. Well, I can sense, she was being oppressed by the sword. She was being held back. She was being told to make herself small, to disappear, to get down on her hands and knees and curl up into a little ball, not moving like a little beetle. And then another woman just comes along, sees her situation, and says, "We can do better." Removes the sword from her tortured life, and off she flies. Like, what's more feminism than that?
Oh, let's see. How about this? Oh, yeah.
See what I mean about the lighting?
Yeah. Here's another shot of that. Yeah, that does look intense.
I wish I had taken photos of her dancing afterwards.
Okay, so then how about this one with the red lighting?
That was probably for a very metal song. That was probably one of the more fierce songs, more masculine, testosterone based, we're warriors, don't mess with us. So their use of lighting was just brilliant, like so ambient.
That looks intense.
But
okay.
it's funny because like all the performers are on the stage, through for the whole 2 hours, and they're all performing. Like they never drop character. They everything seems to be very practiced. Like there's no breaks in the show. It just moves from one song into the other. It's like everything transitions naturally.
So there's not a moment where like most of the performers leave and it's just one or two people on stage. So it's always just full of people.
Well, the lead singers are always on stage and they're always performing. But then, sometimes they'll get like the females to come in to dance. And then sometimes they'll get the warriors in to dance. But they also add to the music as well. So through their, the beating of the shields or stamping of the feet, they are part of the music as well. So their performance is, I guess, what they require, or if they're telling a story. So for the more softer things, they involve the females. For, the more rough and ready ones, they get the warriors out. And yeah, it's just great.
See. How about we'll watch one of your videos? All right, let me see if I can. It looks like you weren't the only person filming. I saw a lot of people.
No, it kind of ruins the moment, doesn't it? But it's better than the old lighters. I guess there was too many flammables. Lots of Viking hair. You can't hold a lighter up anymore, so it's safer to hold up the phone. But yeah, I think everyone was recording, which is weird because I went to, well, not weird because I went to a comedian show the other day, and it was like, no cameras, don't have any cameras, you can't film anything in this whole arena. And yet, everyone was comfortably with their phone out recording the whole thing at this concert. And I know a lot of concerts nowadays, they don't want you to record it or film it or put anything out there, but it's good in a way. Maybe they're still small and they like people talking about them, so we can share these kind of clips, which is nice. Yeah. But it does sort of take away, like you see the screens glowing, from the nosebleed section where I was, you can see all the mobile phones. It sort of does take you out of the moment a bit. Like we're not all living in the moment. We're just capturing it for YouTube. So I was doing the same thing though.
Well, just 20 seconds. So not
I'm a zombie. Yeah. Well, I never really caught, every time I rolled the camera, it was always like a slow moment. But then the minute I turned the camera off, then suddenly something exciting happened, and I'm just like, oh my god, freaking out. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't capture that moment. Ugh. And then I bring the camera back up, and it's something very slow and small. I can never capture the magic.
But I mean, a lot of their stuff is already up very high quality on their own YouTube, right?
Yeah, they don't need me. No. I won't quit my job to be a cinematographer for them.
That's what I always think when I don't want to film at a show, because I just feel like the next day afterwards I'll just search YouTube to see if someone else put up a clip.
Yeah. But then I get mad because they got better pictures than me. And like, I don't know, have you ever get that sense of jealousy of like, oh, if I was only like 200 meters closer, I would have had better photos.
Yeah, but if they put them up, we could look at them anyways. So it's
that's true. Yeah, nah, I'd rather keep it for the memory books. Like, yeah, I'm not really good at filming at concerts. Like, I just want to watch it and enjoy it and be part of that moment.
All right, let's check out some more of your stuff here. Let's see. Okay, so how about this moment?
This is probably getting towards the end. So yeah, you can see the performers are off the stage there, but they've got the girls in the background, and they sort of, they add additional vocals, but they also dance. So it was probably a bit slower there. I like their music because it is like a mix of frenetic energy, but then also mixed with the slow, melodic sort of, ambient, Norse-inspired Viking music. You could imagine, if anyone who's watched the Viking show, they know the soundtrack is epic. So it's pretty much in that genre.
So when you said people were body surfing, does that mean members of the band were body surfing? Or
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, not the band itself, not the three individuals, but yes, the ones with the shields. They put down their shields and spears, and then a few of them ran out into the crowd and were dancing amongst the crowd at the end when they were whipping everyone up into that frenzy. And then, about 2 or 3 of them were crowd surfing across the top. So yeah, it was so well done, like how they did it. Like I feel everything was leading up to a climax in that sense in their performance. Like everything was building to this massive orgy of movement and color and lights, and then you've got all the performers running out into the crowds and just whipping them up even more, like going crazy. So it was really good. But when she's at the forefront of the stage, that's probably more her vocal songs. So more the ethereal, quiet, contemplative, moody kind of music.
Oh, do you remember what's happening here?
Yeah, she's playing an instrument and she's dancing and moving almost like an animal. And it was funny because her and the other the guy, Kai, the one who does all the Tibetan throat singing, they were circling each other like wild animals.
Wow.
So it was almost like a showdown between two bison who are about to headbutt each other. So it was great how they took those sort of movements, like those animalistic movements, and moved that into the performance as well.
That does sound cool. She's drumming there, I guess.
Yeah. But you can imagine it's almost like stalking prey, like how she was moving. That slow weave that so she was crouching and moving almost very like snake-like.
Okay.
It was almost like a snake-like slithering, like how she was moving across the stage in a crouch form.
So,
look at that guy's big camera.
Yeah.
And look at his Viking haircut.
I noticed that too, yeah. Wait, let's see. Oh, so is this what you were talking about? The kind of back and forth between them? Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't capture the actual circling moment, but yeah, they sort of circled each other and he took a turn with vocals that were a bit more rough and then she came in, and so it was almost like a competition or a fight between the two lead singers. But it was awesome. See what I mean about the antlers? Could you imagine everyone who wore antlers in that mosh pit, jumping up and down with headpieces like that?
Yeah.
That's one way to get a lawsuit.
Yeah. Someone could lose an eye. Yeah, you could see like some of the badass instruments, right? So does that look like animal fur hanging? So the guy on the, let's see, second from the right, is that like a bunch of animal fur hanging off his gear?
Yeah, the pelts. They use like a femur for a drumstick. Like one guy walks around with a big round drum and is like banging it with a human bone. And yeah, like if you look close at the decorations on their foreheads, like on their crowns, I don't know what you would call them, helmets. Yeah, there's lots of bones hanging off it, animal skins, like ancient weapons. Like I think with that one that we listened to before where you could hear the metal clanging, it was almost like a blacksmith's mallet on an ironstone. So it was so good. Like the instruments isn't like guitars and pianos. It's all very percussion. There is a keyboard there, I think, but I think that was more a synthesizer. This was at the beginning, or it could have been at the end. I think it was the end. They started their performance and they ended their performance by getting in a circle, holding hands, crouching, and giving thanks and prayers. So that's to symbolize the ritual of the performance. They start with, a blessing, and then afterwards they come together and, they close the ritual. So, yeah, it's beautiful to see.
They look rather animal-like here, I would say.
Yeah. See what I mean? It's almost like poking through the veil of like 600 years ago, watching like some pagans, do some magic prayers to their gods. Surprised there was no bloodshedding or bloodletting. Thank God. There was no human sacrifices in this performance and they didn't kill a goat. So it was all very, PG that way.
Maybe they're working up to that in the future.
Yeah, well, Ozzy Osbourne did it first, didn't he?
Let's see. Wow. Yeah, a lot of just like the backlighting and stuff where you could see silhouettes It looks cool, especially with the antlers.
Yeah, like it's good in a way because you could go unrecognized. You know, like singers like Sia, you know, how they cover their face and you don't know what they look like. I think that would be the best thing in the world. You could be famous and, you know, put on your antlers, you know, by night, and then by day, you just like walking down to the shop to get a newspaper, you know, and
Hmm.
no one knows. You could be the most normal business-like person in real life, and then at night you've got this alter ego, which is just complete badassery.
Did did you ever see them break character? Like, does someone look at their watch or something?
No, that's crazy. I know because like for the 2 hours you were just immersed. These
Yeah.
were characters on the stage. There was no moment where they were broken or, you know, like shambling like, okay, we've got to line up this thing next. Every movement took you to the next part of the performance. So no, they're consummate professionals.
Oh, so here we could see, you said you were in the nosebleed seats.
Yeah, well, halfway. My friend, we're both in our 40s. We don't want to, you know, be moshing with 20-year-olds anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, but you could see by the lights. This was sort of like at the end where they started strobing all the lights everywhere and people were going crazy. But the lights were a big part of the performance as well.
Hmm. I mean, I think for a show like this, it'd be kind of good to be back so you could see the whole stage, I would think.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Hmm.
Like you want a good view of everything because it's like I said, it's almost like a ballet. You want to see all the performers all at the same time. If you're up the front, you'd be fighting people, jumping up and down, getting sweaty. You wouldn't be able to see what's happening.
Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, the lasers, that's an interesting contrast. Kind of, those look kind of like laser beams.
Yeah, I just wish I'd filmed like how they'd used the light as a strobe effect to highlight the different performers on the stage with the drum beat. Oh, it was so amazing. It was almost like I'm surprised no one had epilepsy, quite frankly. But yeah, just how it was like boom, 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 and all the lights were just lighting up different areas, and they would strike different poses every time the light came back to them. So it was like, yeah, almost like those flip books. Could you imagine? Like, you know, those flip books that have a picture on each page? That's what it
Yeah.
was like.
Wow. That that pattern or that design on the stage is very cool too.
Yeah, I think it's a rug. Well,
Huh.
I guess that helps, like, if they had to line up, you know, in a circle, they just, you know, have a little spot on their rug.
Huh.
But it looked good. Just me
Yes.
standing in line so you can see the army of black.
Yeah. Yeah, like these guys look like headbangers to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you weren't wearing black, you probably weren't cool enough.
Oh, okay, this is another video. Let me get the sound. Hmm.
You could hear the wolf howls.
Yeah, yeah. And you could hear that on the album too. Like, I mean, people are howling and screaming. Yeah, it's
Brings out the primal beast in all of us.
mm,
But
mm, yeah.
yet everyone was so polite and so nice. So, you know, they could go wild, but in a genteel, you know, nice way.
Mm. Yeah, I'm impressed. I would like to check this out if it comes to Japan.
Oh, I hope you do. You'll love it, I think. Like if you like drums, if you just like things reverberating through your body and just yeah, it's a good time. Because you know, Japanese they have like those drums, you know, like that those big boo, those big
Taiko.
drums.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, taiko. Yeah. So that's kind of how it felt like when you were there listening to them beating the drums. You could feel it through the floor.
Mm. Mhm. Okay, well, yeah, Emily, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for talking us through that concert.
Yeah, I've never been on a podcast before. It'll probably be my first and last time.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Um, and you I just lost my train of thought. Oh, so we're gonna go out with a song that kind of showcases the other singer, right? So the female singer we've heard already, but the male singer Kai, who does kind of the guttural singing, yeah. So
Yeah, the
but
Tibetan throat singing. My
yeah.
goodness, his vocal cords must be like iron, I think. Could you imagine like that for 2 hours every night? Oh, so good.
That could be what attracts some of the heavy metal fans to this. Just those
Oh,
vocals,
yeah, for
kind
sure.
of death metal vocals.
Yeah, it's almost like circular breathing too, isn't it? Because it's almost like using two chords at the same time. Like,
Mhm.
it's talent. I couldn't do it.
Mm.
Must be like a niche skill.
Okay, so we're going to go out with a track two. We'll just play a couple minutes of it. It's called In Maidjan, if I'm pronouncing that right. But
Jim's
okay, all right, Emily, thanks for joining us. Thanks for introducing this band and giving us your feedback on the show. And yeah, come back again sometime. Yeah.
Well, if I go to another concert, I've got Smashing Pumpkins coming up, but I think they're too mainstream. But thank you so much for having me. It was great to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a blast. Wait. Okay, let me fire up that song. Thanks for watching, everyone.